I see what you did there, Rhino. We are back in the Element Well studio. We welcome Suzanne Rutherford, Executive Director for Volunteer Mississippi. Suzanne, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. We're in this wet weather has been interesting.
So be careful out there. Absolutely. All right. So tell the folks exactly what Volunteer Mississippi does.
Absolutely. Volunteer Mississippi is your state agency on volunteerism. We look to support all Mississippians, whatever their backgrounds, their ages, in service to their communities. It's very important to us is to see communities where they are and help connect resources with those communities, with those community members.
So do you sort of serve as kind of a gathering place or a combination of the various volunteer-type agencies?
We are. We do understand that volunteers come in many different shapes and sizes and focus areas. And we act really as a connector agency for organizations, for individuals, looking for things to do in their communities and to really give back.
I got you. Mm-hmm. And so, do you try to encourage people to get involved as volunteers, and how do you do that?
Absolutely. Communities really know what they need. They know the challenges, they know their successes, and so we actively want to see community members helping out in their communities, their neighbors, their families, their schools and churches and organizations where they are when they live, work, and play. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What have you been working on recently? What are some of the needs and some ways that you'd like to see volunteers become active and participate?
It's an ever-evolving thing. It's the same day, right?
Yeah.
And so right now we are looking at celebrating our volunteers in Mississippi, specifically through the Governor's Initiative for Volunteer Excellence Awards, or the GIVE Awards. That's a great name for it, right?
Yeah.
But these really take a look at the great things folks are doing in their state, all from everyone from the 18 and younger crowd to the 55 and better crowd, and everything in between. We have the Marsha Meeks Kelly Lifetime Achievement in Service Award, which celebrates and recognizes individuals who have been dedicating their lifetimes to service to Mississippi and to their communities as a whole. So that's one facet we're working on. But another one is we're ramping up for hurricane season. It starts June 1. It's coming up upon us pretty quickly. And so we do a lot of work in the aftermath of disasters. And before that, too. We look at preparedness, response, and recovery, and how volunteers can really stand in the breach with folks when they are needed the most. And so we have a lot of preparedness protocols going out. We're looking at trainings, making sure that communities have exactly what they need, where they need it, should something happen.
Where do you get your funding? What's the source of that?
We are a state agency that's been around for 30 years. We have state funding as well as federal funding because we do, our bread and butter comes from AmeriCorps. So if you ever heard of national service, it's kind of like a domestic Peace Corps, right? So we want to keep our best and brightest here in the States doing the work that needs to be done and using service as a solution to some of these challenges that we see not only in Mississippi but across the country.
Yeah. Yeah, I know there's this pretty active organization. I know you talked about hurricane season upon us, and of course we're a state that unfortunately experiences a number of natural disasters.
We do.
So, are there any other areas in particular that you volunteers work on besides, of course, coming to the aid of their fellow Mississippians when they experience these sorts of catastrophes, weather catastrophes?
I mentioned earlier, volunteers come in all shapes and sizes, and I'll answer the call for all different types of needs. Just this week, we're working with Extra Table. It's an organization out of Hattiesburg to help with food insecurity for Mississippians. They are right smack in the middle of their March for the Mayors campaign, so they're doing food boxing parties, if you will, all across the state. Monday, I believe they were in Cleveland. Tuesday, Tupelo. Wednesday, we were here in Jackson. We helped, as an office, pack at least 1,000 food boxes with shelf-stable foods. This is anything from peanut butter, tuna, pasta, rice, that sort of thing, so that those can get into the hands of families that need it. But yesterday they were in Hattiesburg, and on today they're wrapping up on the Gulf Coast. They're rather busy.
Yeah.
But the food insecurity is a huge issue for Mississippians, and we want to make sure that volunteers can help answer the call on that as well.
Gotcha.
So like I said, it runs from everything from soup to nuts when you're talking about volunteers.
Is from your vantage point, are the needs of our population increasing, staying the same, declining somewhat?
Over the last 5 years, I'd say we've seen an influx in access, the need for access for critical things, food, shelter, clean water, that sort of thing. Previously, we had a lot of focus on disaster work with Katrina. Naturally, we're coming up on 20 years. It's hard to believe. But we see those needs, and it's been very gratifying to see communities say, this is what we need. We see this in down the street, in our own homes, that sort of thing. And so it's been really good to be able to connect with those communities on a local level, and we want to make sure that we keep doing that. So we answer the call, whatever the need is, and that we can be flexible enough to do that.
Are there some regions of the state where we see greater need than others?
Mississippi has its challenges, to be sure, but we are a strong state, and we answer the call. We have a lot of focus areas. Like when you talk about the Mississippi Delta, there's a food desert.
Yeah.
Even though it's agriculturally based, they have a shortage of good, accessible, healthy foods, right? We're looking in just north of Vicksburg, you have issues with flooding. We have flooding right now in Jackson. Mm-hmm. As a Jackson resident, I can tell you all about that. But it's everything from the coast to the Pine Belt, and everybody kind of feels the human experience this a little differently all over Mississippi, but we all have different needs. And so, like I said, we really try to answer that call and be gracious enough to know that we might need some help sometimes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Does the organization or any of the member organizations, do they get involved in, say, child care, health care, things like that?
We do. We have, the largest part of our portfolio, the service portfolio with AmeriCorps specifically, looks at education and getting access to good curriculum and the solid curricula that really move the needle for Mississippians. We do have... just like in Laurel, Mississippi, we have with the city of Laurel, and then Laurel Plays. They work with individuals. They're usually about 17 years old, and they look at environmental restoration. So how do we have our public areas really benefit the city of Laurel and the Jones County area? We have a really fantastic program through the University of Southern Mississippi. This is the Triad program. They have members who with and without disabilities who are going into schools and looking at the Health Matters curriculum as well as the financial literacy curriculum. So it's really meeting folks where they are and looking at the needs for those communities. Healthcare is a big focus, of course, but we really like to look at those needs as identified by those communities, because we want to listen, right? We don't want to come in and say, you should do X, Y, and Z, but if it's not really going to help or move the needle on something, is that worth it? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What about housing?
Historically, we've had some housing programs, specifically through housing authorities. In the Meridian area, we've had AmeriCorps programming with the Meridian Housing Authority, a number of other places. Right now, that has not been a focus of communities coming to us, that is, that we know it's indefinitely a need, and it's a market we'd love to get into.
Yeah. So it's a state agency. How long has it been?
30 years.
30 years.
January 25th, 1994, we were established by executive order, and thereafter we put in the statute 1997 and have not stopped going since then.
And I assume you have a board of directors?
We do. We have a board of up to 25 governor-appointed individuals. Right now we're at 19, I believe, and they're from all over the state. And let me tell you, they are some tremendous, tremendous partners in service, and they have a real heart for service, but they also have a real good mind for it too. They see the needs and know how to really identify where Volunteer Mississippi can stand in that gap with folks.
25, that's a big board.
Up to 25, yes. We have 19 right now.
You have 19 right now.
Mm-hmm.
Those must be some fun board meetings.
They are some fun. They're some fun people, and we have fun meetings. But we do a lot of work, and that board is very well engaged in that. And
then, in addition to a board, assume you have a staff.
We do. We have a staff of. Hopefully, we'll have 9 next week. Actually, I have a new individual starting to work with our program.
Okay.
Our programs. Looking for another one for another 10.
Oh.
For an even 10. But these folks come from all over, and they've had their backgrounds are in everything from healthcare to education and now public service. And so we're a mixed bag, but we're a fun group.
Real quick, if they want to volunteer or perhaps provide some funding, where do they go?
Go to volunteermississippi.org, and that's Mississippi all spelled out. If you want to volunteer, hit the big blue button that says Volunteer Now, and we'll get you in the right place.
Sounds good. All right. Appreciate you coming on. Suzanne Rutherford, Executive Director of Volunteer Mississippi. Appreciate it. Coming right back in the Element Wealth Studio.